Fresh from the showroom, here we are discussing this morning Vacheron Constantin, one of my favorite watch brands.
My absolute favorite watch brand.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. The design and style of these pieces are bar none the most traditional style. They're the most elegant. They're some of the most durable pieces that I've ever seen produced. And it happens to be the oldest watchmaking company producing watches for the longest period of time since 1755.
Wow.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about, I know that you said that they're really durable, their designs obviously are just impeccable, but the watchmaking itself, I've often heard them referred to as being as good as anything else out there, even if we were to include premier brands like Patek Philippe and Jaeger-LeCoultre, that they really stack up right with other companies. Is that right?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. In fact, actually, they use Jaeger movements for a long period of time. And in the Vacheron Constantin Overseas, Constantin.
Constantin. Just say VNC.
Right. So in this particular piece with the grand date, it does use the original JLC movement.
Okay.
Later on from this model, if you bought the model that did not have the grand date, it was actually a Blancpain. It operated at the 5 hertz range too, just like the Blancpain chronograph did, and one of the most durable and the most sophisticated chronograph movements in the marketplace.
Interesting.
Absolutely gorgeous watch.
Beautiful.
Here's part of the reason why. And actually, I'm wearing this watch on a rubber strap because you can change out the straps on them. You can have crocodile rubber or the metal bracelet. The bracelet on this one is my favorite because it's the most bold. The new versions of this are a little bit more soft. They're a little bit more round. They match the case because the case actually tucks under. It lays a little bit flatter. It's just a softer piece. Now, some people really like that. There's two camps on this. I happen to love the boldness of the old bracelet. I love the diamond cut sort of looking edges. I love how the Maltese, what would be part of the Maltese cross is incorporated all the way down through, and those edges are very, very sharp and soft and rounded.
It's really original the way they incorporate their own logo as a motif in their designs rather than just making a standard link bracelet like everyone else does. That's really a stunning design.
Right, and that cross pattern is on the crown. It's on the back side of the bracelet. When you clasp it together, it's actually engraved into the clasp. It's also a portion of the bezel. They did the same thing around the outside edge of the bezel as well, which is a very unique thing. Now, this particular watch looks like a Girolginta design, though it actually is not. This was actually 100% designed by Vacheron.
They also do the cross in the buckles on their tang buckles on the leather straps. Beautiful the way they do that.
Moving on to one of my favorite dress pieces in the world, and if you ever come to SwissWatchExpo and you want to know what piece do I recommend, if you like one of the most hyper thin, I call it hyper thin, mechanical watches in the marketplace, the Vacheron Patrimony in platinum is definitely that watch. Everything about these watches is hand done. Literally the paint is 100% hand done as well. There's no detail left out on these watches whatsoever. And they can go through 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 dials before they get it right, before they actually install it on the watch. So it's something that is very persnickety in their overall watch design.
I love on this one how the design of it is just so simple, and it's a large scale watch, and they didn't feel the need to fill up the dial with a bunch of subdials and text writing and date and lots of. You just get hour markers, minute ticks, in 2 hands.
Yep.
I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thickness is not very much. It lays flat on your wrist. It's a manual wind watch, which is, I love manual wind watches. They're my favorite. And it's just the most durable watch. I have customers all the time that wear these watches not just in platinum, but in gold, white gold, rose gold. They wear them absolutely every day without any problems or drama. They never really ding up the cases. They're super durable cases because they don't catch on anything. They're so thin.
Right.
They look great forever. They keep absolutely accurate time, and they don't require a lot of service outside the regular norm. So,
okay, I'm sold.
Yeah. So next we're going to go to the Historique. Now this is a dual time model. You get 2 things on this dial. First of all, you get the secondary time zone on here, and then you get the 24-hour indicator on the other side showing you what it's day or night on your GMT hand.
And the shape of this rose gold case is just so beautiful. It's got an Art Deco look to it. It looks like a throwback, but most vintage watches were not this scale, so this is like a modern size with a vintage look. The way there's a counterweight to the second hand, there's just so many things that you could look at this watch for hours and still see new things.
It's absolutely amazing. The second hand having that loop or the eye, it looks like you're supposed to thread a needle through it.
Right.
It's really cool. The shape of the hour hand is amazing. Again, as you said, everything throws back to early days. That's why they call it the Historique. And also the Arabic numerals, the way that they are written on the dial, and they are literally written and painted on the dial by hand. It is a Vacheron font uniqueness. So this font isn't found anywhere else except on Vacheron.
It's incredible to think of the hand craftsmanship that goes into these watches, that
Right.
people actually doing this work by hand in an age where things are just mass produced and stamped out in the Far East. And this is just such a kind of a stand in the face of that and protest the way modern things are so disposable. And this is a work of art that no doubt will still be around in centuries to come.
Even closing in on the fact that during the late 1970s, when they needed to compete against the Japanese quartz movement, they actually went ahead and made a quartz movement watch and to stay in the game. And when they did, they kept that same design style and element, even though it was a quartz watch. And that's why they've been able to stick around constantly in constant production over the years since 1755. They did never give up. And so moving on to the most beautiful watch that nobody, and I mean nobody, passes up when they walk by. When I was working at the Vacheron boutique dealer, when anybody would walk through the store, it didn't matter what else they were looking at. When I had this in the vitrine, people stopped and looked. And it didn't matter what age they were, didn't matter anything about where they came from, or if they even knew anything about a watch. When they saw this, it was a showstopper.
It's really unusual to see the crown here at the 12 o'clock position, the entire dial shifted. Tell me the story of that.
So these watches are crafted because in the early days of racing in the 1920s, obviously there weren't clocks in cars, there weren't stopwatches, there weren't timers. They were just, you either had a pocket watch, which is impractical when you're driving a car, or you had something on your wrist that you could actually monitor how much time, there were intervals, time intervals.
Right.
And you had to monitor that, and the only way to do that is to have a wristwatch. Well, the problem is that when you have a traditional wristwatch and your arm is turned at a weird angle, when you turn it towards you, it's not the most clear what's going on. So in order to show the time, they angled the dial. They also made it where if you were doing a 24-hour race, which they actually did, the driver could reach up with this big gloves and they could actually wind the watch from the top. And so the idea was when your hand goes through to the steering wheel, whenever you want to see the time, you simply just tilt and it's exactly at the right angle when you want to check the time in the second.
So if you want the feel of racing those old Bugattis and Bentleys, this is your watch.
Absolutely.
That's really cool.
The tonneau shaped watch, just an interesting watch overall. This is the Royal Eagle. The design factor that goes into the lugs, most of the watches you see that are tonneau shaped, they come straight down. They don't have the very best. They don't have the very best shape and design to them. They just look sort of, I want to say, Lego-ish.
Kind of glued on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This one just brings the pure elegance to the tonneau shape. It also kind of continues the theme with the hands. You still get the painted dial. Once again, this watch is an absolutely incredible art design. And as you said earlier, every time you look at just the side of the case, the top of the case, no matter where you look, you find some sort of detail that you can stare at and imagine how difficult it was, even from the rounding of the case here. One of the other things about the watches that we carry here at SwissWatchExpo is that they are internationally serviced. There's a little sticker here on the back side of this watch that shows the Maltese cross for Vacheron. This watch was internationally serviced prior to coming here. So Vacheron has actually checked this watch out, serviced it, and given it all the love and care that Vacheron will normally do for anybody. There's a couple of watches. In fact, actually the 21 driver is that way too. It's also got the sticker on the back as well. So there's the sticker for the back. And you can see these in the pictures on SwissWatchExpo.com too. So,
And these watches are really kind of under the radar. If someone doesn't want to draw attention, they want a watch that they could wear to a sporting event and not feel like they're advertising to the world that what they've got on. There are very few people that would realize what you have on, and so it brings you a lot of personal enjoyment for the watch, but without really attracting a lot of the wrong kind of attention.
interesting thing about that, Vacheron only produces about 25,000 watches per year. So we're not talking about a very high production, and we're talking about 25,000 production pieces across their entire lineup all year long around the world. So if you have a Vacheron, you've only got one of 25,000 made in that particular year. Extraordinarily rare watch.
Yeah.
But I think the value proposition is here. When you buy these watches pre-owned, the kind of discount that you're getting off the new price is incredible. You're getting a watch that looks absolutely unworn. Every single one of these watches, whether the strap or the case or the crystal or whatever it may be, looks completely unworn. It looks fantastic for the money that you're paying. There's nowhere else that I would go. These watches compete with Rolex, with Cartier. They're some of the best pieces in the world. Patek Philippe even. Patek Philippe tends to be a little bit smaller, so Vacheron carries the pieces that are larger if you want larger pieces at a great price and you want to have something extraordinarily different than everybody else has.
So for phenomenal watchmaking, the value for the dollar, the fact that these sell for quite a bit less than their original retail price here through Swiss Watch Expo, this really is the most bang for the buck in the store. It sounds
Absolutely,
like you're telling me.
bar none.
Well, great. Well, thanks, Creed.
Yeah, thank you.